If there's one thing that I find more and more interesting as I get older, it's how people tend to fall for rumor and innuendo, or tend to take a meme from yesteryear and interpret it as truth. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how urban legends, at least in regards to popular culture, are created. For those unfamiliar with the term, an urban legend is basically folklore. It's a story that gets circulated like it is the truth, but tends to be a slope that can be traced to a rumor or a joke or something along those lines. At some point in life's game of telephone, someone took the statement too seriously, started regurgitating it as truth, and other people who trusted that person just believed them. From there, the thing spreads wide and far up until someone really anal about these sorts of things on the internet calls it a slope, which is me today. Here's one thing that almost started recently that got squashed really quick that's a good example of this. It started on the Gundam subreddit and did get squashed pretty quickly, but it's a good example of how these things get started. For some reason, it went around the internet for a little bit that the creator of Mobile Suit Gundam, Yoshiyuki Tamano, was a communist. Now, where this came from was an article from Anime News Network that went over some statements that Tamano made about growing up in a post-World War II Japan. Gundam actually takes inspiration from Tamano being a kid while World War II went on, which I think the aesthetics of the Principality of Zeon and Girinzabi being Hitler make that kind of obvious. Either way, when Tamano was talking about growing up as a young adult, he mentioned some people turning to communism in Japan at the time of the Cold War, as part of what it was like to be alive at the time. Given that this started on Reddit, and the brains of Redditors are smoother than mulberry silk, some goof translated this to Tamano saying that he was a communist, even though anyone with a basic understanding of the English sentence structure would not come to that conclusion. So, it got squished pretty quick, but this is how these things generally get started. So, what we're going to do today is go over 6 Gundam urban legends over the years, discuss what started them, and whether or not there's any truth to them. Let's get started. Heero Yuy never tried to kill Relena in Gundam Wing. This is a fun one. There's a bit of a joke among us Gundam Wing fans. If you meet Heero Yuy in Gundam Wing, you don't necessarily have to be scared if he says, "I'll kill you." That's actually just a warning. You need to be scared of when he says the words, "Mission accepted," or "Roger that." That means he's actually going to try to murder you at that point, or he's going to do something crazy. Now, there's levels of truth to this. He never successfully kills anyone directly after telling them, "I'll kill you," within the show. The other 2 phrases? Oh, he kills the shit out of a ton of people after saying them. The thing is, the game of telephone here came into play. It went from people observing that that's the warning to he never tried to kill anyone after saying the phrase, to people saying he never tried to kill Relena Peacecraft, the very first person he ever said it to. As you can expect by the title of the video, this isn't true. Heero actually does try to kill Relena. Not only that, it happens very early on in the series. In episode 2, the Gundam Death Scythe, to be exact. You see, part of this episode has Heero in a position where he believes he has to destroy Wing Gundam since he was seen way too early on in Operation Meteor. During the process of him acquiring torpedoes to try to blow the Gundam up, Relena manages to confront him on top of a submarine. How she got into an Oz base is beyond me, but I guess Oz just needs better security. Regardless, it's at this point that Heero actually points a gun at Relena with every intention of killing her. But at this point, he is shot in the arm by Duo Maxwell, preventing him from doing it. So yes, Heero Yuy was very much going to actually kill Relena. Thing is, this happens in the 2nd episode of a 50-episode series, so I can understand why not only it was something that got forgotten by the end of it, but ended up becoming an urban legend. Uso Ewin is Char Aznable's great-grandson. Time to stand up to the victory for this one. So, one of the most popular fan theories behind the young new type and protagonist of Mobile Suit Victory Gundam is that he's related to the most recognizable villain in all of Mecha. Victory Gundam stars Uso Ewin, a 13-year-old Gundam pilot, and he has a terrible time. Now, because Victory Gundam takes place so far from the original series, and its follow-ups, about 80 years after the original Mobile Suit Gundam, it's pretty detached from just about anything in what we would call the early Universal Century. There's no Zeon, the bad guys are in some ways even crazier, and everything is really, really depressing. Now, there are some questions that get brought up about Uso as the show went on and we met his mother. You see, his mom's name is Myra Miguel, and we have to show the original spelling here, but it would get translated to Myra Miguel, Miguel, and this made some people raise their eyebrows. You see, there's a character in the early Universal Century that is a paramour of Char Aznable, named Nanai Miguel. This got people thinking. Uso's a blonde. Not only that, but he has a habit of using his mobile suit to kick other mobile suits. Where have we seen that before? This is when people start connecting dots. Blonde hair, mother's maiden name is translated as Miguel, likes kicking other mobile suits, also a new type. Is it possible that maybe Nanai Miguel had a son after the Second Neo-Zeon War, and then that son went on to have a daughter named Mira Miguel? Is Uso Ewin the great-grandson of Char Aznable? Funnily enough, he's not, but he almost was. The rumor is one that got squashed by the great Tamino himself, who also wrote this series. But here's the thing. The production staff behind the show actually wanted to have Uso be Char's descendant, but it was Tamino who shot it down. Funny thing about it is that there are some people that absolutely hate the fact Tamino shot it down once they find out the truth of things. And this is one of those situations where I can see both sides of it. On one hand, it would be cool for Uso to be Char's great-grandson. I think there's some nostalgia there for a lot of people, and they like the connection to the early Universal Century. The thing is, I have a feeling Tamino shot it down because it honestly, as presented, wouldn't have added anything to the story. I have a feeling that if he wanted to do something with one of Char's descendants, he would have a bit more Char influence be a key element of the plot, not just background lore. Not to mention, I think it would probably distract from other elements of Victory's story. Plus, the show's already as bonkers as it is already, so it doesn't need something like that. And, admittedly, Tamino hates Victory, so I doubt he cared enough to put that kind of effort into it. Fujoshis saved the original Mobile Suit Gundam. So this one contains something that you all know I hate. Shippers. Yeah, I think they're the scum of the earth as far as being part of a fandom. If you do something they don't like as a creator or artist, get ready for death threats, because you're going to get a lot of them. Well, one thing that shippers like to do is self-aggrandize, and when they've got the chance to claim that they are the reason that the original Mobile Suit Gundam became popular, they will take it. Thing is, this isn't really the case. So the story of the original Mobile Suit Gundam was that its original run was supposed to be longer than what we got. Instead of 43 episodes, it would have been closer to 50. Though admittedly the run it got ended up giving it a good pace. The thing is that the reason that it was able to have a solid conclusion instead of just being cancelled is because Gunpla took off, which is a provable fact. Had the original Gundam model kit not sold as well as it did, the show would have been cancelled. Tamino would have probably faded into obscurity, so on and so forth. However, and this is where things start to get hazy, Tamino and other people associated with Gundam have always credited the female fanbase of the show for being as dedicated as they were from the start. Tamino even stated that 1/3 of the fan mail for the show was from women in the NHK Making Gundam documentary.
ファンレターの3分の1ぐらいが女の子だったんです。それで女の子たちはまさにホワイトベースの要するに家族論しか見てないわけ。
There's also a lot of quotes you can read from Tamino from a blog that's often quoted out of context that I had to dig up via the Wayback Machine. This particular blog is a cacophony of other quotes taken out of their context, some of which are completely mistranslated. When I look into them, a lot of them just had the same idea. Tamino praising the amount of female fans that Mobile Suit Gundam has. By the way, this was never controversial, despite what Twitter would tell you. There's even very well-known female VTubers that are Gundam fans, like Ina, Iris, and Suisei from Hololive, with Suisei actually having one of her songs featured in Gundam G-Quux. Part of what makes Gundam great, at least in my opinion, is that it's a show you can sit down and watch with your significant other, and there's something for both of you. Thing is, somewhere along the line, a meme got started, that women who like to ship Char and Amuro as a couple are the reason that Gundam became as popular as it did. It was never more than a joke, though. And this joke honestly goes back to when I was in college, back in the early to mid-2000s. As time went on, some people took the joke way too seriously, probably because it validated their ships, and validated the shipping mindset, despite the fact that the only person we know for sure that Amuro plowed was Beltorchika Irma. So to be honest, and fair to Fujoshis, because we're all wrong, none of the shipping around Amuro is actually true. He never dated Frau, never dated Sayla. We only know about Beltorchika. So yeah, the truth of the matter is that Gundam's got a sizable female fan base, making it a good watch for you and the missus. Hell, after you watch the show, the two of you can enjoy Gundam Explained by this guy named Big Micah C and his Ack Guy cohort shirt dude. But no, shippers are not the reason that this show survived cancellation. It has a diverse fan base, and these shippers use statements about Tamino and others praising the fact that it does have such a diverse fan base as a way to self-aggrandize and make themselves sound more important than they are. It was Gunpla that saved the series, not people wishing that Char was bumming Amuro. The original Mobile Suit Gundam was cancelled on Toonami due to low ratings. So for the last part of this video, we're going to have a few urban legends based around ratings. There's actually a few urban legends within Gundam based around such things, and one of the more famous ones comes from the original Mobile Suit Gundam. So the urban legend here is that the original Mobile Suit Gundam was a complete and total flop on Toonami. Now this is one that I know isn't true because there's empirical evidence saying otherwise, and on top of that, this is one that I lived through, and I know exactly why it got cancelled. For reference, Gundam debuted here in the West with Gundam Wing, and it was a huge sensation to say the least. For those of us who are my age, meaning you were a teenager at the dawn of the new millennium, this was our Gundam show, in the same way that Gundam Seed is the Gundam show of the anime boom, the Naruto generation. Then again, Naruto sucks, Seed sucks, it fits. Don't type that comment, I see you. Those aren't ninjas. Naruto is weeaboo Harry Potter, fuck off with that. I don't care if you like it, I'm just shitposting. Anyway, after Gundam was such a hit, people were looking forward to whatever was going to come next on Toonami when it came to Gundam. So the original series was set to debut. According to an article from Anime News Network, the show had high enough ratings to justify continuing to air it on the program. Plus, Gunpla would start to come over to the States that were from the original show as well. Now here's the problem. Mobile Suit Gundam debuted on Toonami on Monday, July 23, 2001. 2 months later, the West witnessed the worst terror attack of all time in 9/11. Now, I remember the change in real time. Every network was changing their programming. Hell, I'm old enough to actually have watched 9/11 on television from the impact of the second plane all the way to the collapse of the towers. The day that it happened, I remember MTV canceling all of its normal daily programming, only airing music videos of slower, more somber songs. Heck, I still remember the very sensation I had when I was sitting in my recliner in my dad's living room watching the music video for Like a Stone by Audioslave while I processed the whole thing. Now, the show did get canceled. So yes, Gundam did get canceled, but not because of ratings. Cartoon Network at this point refused to air anything that was oriented around war. Simple as. Given how the circumstances were, it was understandable, and what ended up happening is they showed the finale of the show on New Year's Eve of the same year. So yes, while the rest of my family was ringing in the new year, I was watching Gundam on television. And I have no regrets. It's still one of my favorite shows ever. So where does the myth originate from? Well, later on, Cartoon Network decided to air the original show on Adult Swim. This is where we get the truth of the matter. The show didn't perform well on Adult Swim's programming block. So at that point, the original show was canceled due to low ratings. It's wild to think of, considering both 08MS Team and 0083 Stardust Memory, two of the most popular OVAs from the Universal Century, became popular because of Adult Swim. Not to mention, Toonami later on would air Char's Counterattack as a special. But yeah, the idea that Gundam wasn't popular on Toonami was bunk. The original show was popular, just not as popular as Wing. But let's be honest. The only thing that equaled and surpassed Wing on Toonami from 2000 to 2004-ish was Dragon Ball Z. It's kind of funny, though, when you think about it, because 20 years down the line, Gundam would end up surpassing Dragon Ball as the most profitable anime franchise in history. Gundam X had low ratings because of a time slot change. Of all the urban legends that are on this list, this one is probably the one with the most truth to it. I had to do some digging on this one, but thankfully I was able to find where the truth lied with things. So some people got very frustrated with me when I did my video on Gundam X a few months back, which was kind of confusing because it was a positive video. Gundam X is a series that is honestly very good despite being rough around the edges. I think a big part of the frustration from some people came with me mentioning that the show didn't perform well in the ratings, because it didn't, and that if it hadn't moved time slots according to some people, then it would have done much better. And that is the urban legend, the idea that if Gundam X had stayed where it was in the time slot, it would have done great. But there's nothing to support that. The numbers don't lie, and they spelled disaster for Gundam X at Sacrifice.
He's fat!
So what we have here is a couple sources that I found. They're from an old blogspot address called the AU Archive, which pulled Japanese television ratings from each of the Gundam shows, citing TV Anime Data Hall and ratings data, also from the publication Adults Gundam. Now, looking at the data, we can see that the highest rating for the first 26 episodes of Gundam X was 6.2%, which isn't bad. It's not far from Wing or G Gundam. The lowest rating, however, in the first half of the show is a 1.8%. This is before time slot changes, by the way. So within the first 26 episodes, the show was at an average that was lower than the previous of Gundam in Wing. And on top of that, already saw episode lows that were as low as Wing got, but within the first half. Plus, the average ratings for 26 episodes of X were considerably lower than from all 49 episodes of Wing. Coming from a statistics standpoint, that's not good. So the fact of the matter is that the ratings for the show weren't really that great, and clearly something in the trends of the ratings when people at the network saw them spooked them, which is when it got moved. From there, the show absolutely just tanked in the ratings, airing at 6 a.m. on Saturdays instead of 5 p.m. on Fridays, which admittedly would have been prime time to watch a cartoon aimed at teenagers. So did the ratings tank after the move? Absolutely, but they weren't trending in a good direction to begin with. So really, people are welcome to have their opinions on the idea of whether or not it would have gone up as the show went on, but there's no real evidence to back the opinion up. It's just something that people believe, which you're welcome to believe it. I'm not really of the opinion that it would have recovered. The fact of the matter is that the ratings for the show weren't what they were looking for, and clearly something in the trends of the ratings were spooking people. It's sad to see, but it is reality. So, did Gundam X's ratings tank after the move? Oh, they absolutely did. But the fact is that they weren't doing as well as they needed to be, which is likely why it was moved in the first place. Gundam Seed saved Gundam. Yeah, now we come to the one that people knew I was going to be talking about. Seed fans are terrible. You know this, I know this. No, I'm not stopping, by the way. In fact, I'm going to be even worse than I usually am. There is a poll in Japan for the morally worst characters in all of Gundam. Basically, the biggest villains in the franchise. And in the top 10, we have people like Alial Sanchez, Bask Ohm, Giran Zabi, Iron Mask, Makuve, so on and so forth. Who is number one? Kira Yamato, by popular vote. Also, I love how number 10 is Nina Purpleton. So yes, Seed sucks. And now we can prove it mathematically. It's poorly written, it's got bad characters, it's got a Gary Sue lead that nobody likes, even the Japanese, and I need not go on. This is established, there's no argument against it. However, Seed fans, after they wish death on you, will have their cope. Apparently, Gundam Seed saved Gundam. Saved it from what? I don't know, considering even with Gundam X doing poorly in the ratings, the original show and Zeta Gundam are held in very high regard in the land of the rising sun. So its legend status was already established. The truth of the matter is that Gundam's upward trend didn't happen when Gundam Seed came out 7 goddamn years after Gundam X. If it was dead after X, there would have never been another Gundam at all. The thing is, there was a show in between Gundam X and Gundam Seed that was effectively meant to be a unique take on Mobile Suit Gundam. Now remember, kids, do not insult Queen Diana's ass, for that is the ass of the moon. Okay, I'll stop memeing, because I really haven't watched Turn A yet. It's my rainy day show for when I'm feeling down and I don't have anything else to watch. But yes, in 1999, Tomino released the single most unique Gundam series to date in Turn A Gundam. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you that the show was a ratings powerhouse. It did have something Gundam X didn't seem to have, though. Consistency. Its highest rating was a 4.1, which isn't that high. And its lowest was as low as Wing or G Gundam got at a 1.7. However, the average rating per episode was a 3.0, which isn't that far behind its high point, all things considered, meaning that they really weren't losing people week to week. It wouldn't surprise me if the low point was a recap episode. Readers of New Type magazine were also big fans of it as well. So it goes without saying that this was the show that started to turn Gundam around. I mean, it got a full run of 50 episodes plus compilation films. You don't get that unless somebody at the network's impressed. So it goes without saying that with Turn A being as steady as it was, Gundam was trending upwards, and it wouldn't surprise me if this is what led to Gundam Seed being greenlit. Now, was Gundam Seed more popular in Japan? That goes without saying. I've never denied its popularity. It managed to match Gundam Double Zeta in ratings numbers, which is very impressive. However, the narrative that it saved Gundam is preposterous. There's no evidence of it, and we all know how this BS story started. It's cope from Seed fans to try to make this garbage series out to be more important than it is. Gundam Seed is the most divisive Gundam show in history, up until The Witcher Mercury. Japan fucking hates Kira Yamato, as we saw in polling. If you're wondering who the character is that honestly drives fandom of Seed, it's Atherin. What Gundam Seed benefited from was being the Gundam show of the anime boom of the early 2000s in Japan and the mid-2000s in America. When Naruto and Bleach gained popularity as anime series, and a lot more people were starting to get back into anime, Gundam Seed happened to be the Gundam show that was airing, and everyone latched onto it as their generation's Gundam. So it honestly benefited mostly from being where it was, right place, right time, because quality-wise, it's fucking terrible. Now, if my sources aren't enough, I'm not the only commentator/journalist who comments on these things or knows the numbers. Ollie Barter of Forbes actually backed me up on this one, surprisingly. So no, Seed fans are full of shit. This garbage did not save Gundam, because Tomino saved Gundam, because Tomino is awesome, and he did it with a show that was meant to be the end of Gundam. How? Because unlike these Gundam urban legends, there are actual truths to this universe. Yoshiyuki Tomino is awesome. Gundam Seed sucks. Haman Karn has a great ass. And Judo Ashita is best boy. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget, like, share, subscribe. Also, become a channel member or patron so that we can get to our goal so that Shirt Dude and I can put ourselves into a hangar together and give you guys a lore-based podcast every single week that members will get exclusive for 6 months. Links for all of that stuff is in the description. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all you guys. My name is Big Micah C, your favorite vanilla gorilla. Have yourselves a great rest of your day, even if you're a Seed fan.